Hello, I am Berdish and this is Epic Tabletop, when we strive to give you the best hobby experience. Now, today is the actual first day for this channel to publish solely in English. So I was wondering what should I start with. Since my main field of interest is battle reporting, there was no doubt that initial material will be just that, battle report. The question was, which game? Well, actually, the question was much broader, since I deal with, many systems, science fiction, fantasy, and historicals, of course. I must admit that at heart I am a historical gamer. Maybe it's like Uncle Atom once said, from Tabletop Minions, Uncle Atom, that with age you tend to tune to historical wargaming ever so slightly. But to be honest, since I can remember, I was always interested in history, so naturally I brought that interest to the tabletop when I got hooked with the hobby. So, first battle report is going to be a historical system called Basic Impetus. I encourage everyone to watch it, even if you don't fancy historical wargaming. I strive to make my battle reports accessible to everyone, no matter the system. There is some mechanic always, so everyone can understand what's going on, but most importantly there is a story and drama, because every battle is a story, and a dramatic one to be sure. Some of my reports are filled with special effects. This one will be rather moderate in this department, simply because of a theme. This is a historical system and the battle is being fought in antiquity, so no laser beams, explosions or fancy magical spell effects. It is important to note that this is our third game in this system, so as much as we are trying to be true to the rules of the system, well, mistakes were made. If you fancy to hear about this, I will address some issues after the battle report. I do have some questions to the Basic Impetus community. I do hope that some experienced player will watch this material. Now, without further ado, I invite you all to the hallowed antiquity.
First to appear on the battlefield is Gallic heavy infantry in large units led by Solduri elite. Next, Roman heavy infantry, the legionnaires, assumes battle positions. This is closely followed by the masses of the Gallic light infantry, some of them in large units. Romans mirror this move with some light infantry of their own in the form of Iberians and Thracians. Then skirmishers are deployed. For Gauls, 2 units of javelin men and 1 of bowmen. For the Romans, solitary unit of Iberian javelin throwers. Then the cavalry is deployed. Gauls deployed all of their cavalry in a group on the left wing. Romans positioned their equites as a possible counter to the Gallic horse. Yet their light Numidian cavalry was placed in the center of the Roman battle line. Numidians were the last to deploy and the battle was about to unfold. Gauls won the initiative this turn and started the battle by moving the cavalry and archers on their right flank. Rest of the army followed suit, surging forward, eager to get in grips with their hated foe. Roman opening move was to push forward their Iberian skirmishers. Their new position allowed them to shower the enemy with their missiles. Fire was ineffective though, causing no harm to the Gauls. More Iberians moved toward Gauls, throwing their javelins as soon as they got in range. Yet again, no hits were scored. Next are the Thracians. They also take aim at the Gallic skirmishers. This time a hit is scored, and the Gauls fail their permanent losses roll, thus receiving a wound and disorder token for taking the test in the first place. Now the Equites made their activation. They moved slightly forward and turned, possibly threatening Gallic cavalry flank if they emerged from behind the woods. Then the legions marched. Last but not least, swift Numidians riders galloped among the ranks of the marching infantry. This concludes the first turn. In the second turn, the initiative is with the Roman commander. Opening activation goes to Thracians. They attack Gallic skirmishers with their deadly javelins. They score one hit, forcing Gauls to take permanent losses test. This effectively destroys the Gallic unit, since no matter the test result, they will suffer a disorder. Having one disorder already will cause a wound on that unit, and since skirmishers have 2 wounds in total, this javelin hit from Thracians sees the end of this Gallic unit. Now Numidian light cavalry barges into opening, showering large Gallic unit with javelins. Their aim is true and they score a hit. Gauls easily save it and suffer no permanent damage, but they do receive a disorder token. Next, Iberian light infantry released their javelins, aiming at another Gallic skirmishers. Yet again a hit is scored. Gauls passed the test, but they received disorder token as usual. Next, Iberian skirmishers activated, moving and then aiming their javelins at the same unit of Gauls. A hit was scored, but miraculously Gauls managed to pass their test. Still, because of being disordered again, they received a permanent wound. Now, legionaries activated and moved slightly forward, finishing a Roman phase. Gauls march boldly forward, moving all infantry, apparently in haste to cover the distance separating them from the enemy and the deadly hand-to-hand combat. On the right flank, Gallic horsemen moved separating into 2 units in an attempt to trap the nearby Roman Equites. Gallic archers followed suit, finishing the turn for the barbarians. Developments on the battlefield made a stern initiative roll crucial for both sides. Situation was tense, and that actually shows when the dice started to roll. Gauls scored 5, and Romans matched them exactly, forcing both sides to re-roll. Gauls scored 6 this time, but Romans outmatched them easily, grasping the initiative for the remainder of the turn. Roman horsemen were not to miss an opportunity and boldly charged Gallic riders that appeared in front of them. Romans attacked furiously with 7 dice, hitting as always in basic impetus on 6s or double 5s. Unfortunately, their eagerness to fight is not matched by the dice roll. They whiffed completely, scoring no hits whatsoever. Gauls, being surprised by the Roman boldness, strike at Equites with 5 dice, feeling not much better than their enemies and scoring 1 hit. Roman permanent damage test was passed, and the only result of the whole fight is disorder for the Equites. Still, Roman attack may yet prove quite decisive for the battle on that flank. This bold action blocked Gallic commander for the moment and made him unable to bring more horsemen to bear on Roman Equites. On the opposite flank, Thracians were trying to do some damage with their javelins. They failed completely though. Next, Numidian horse attacked Gallic infantry in front of them. They scored a hit. Gauls needed a 4+ in order to avoid permanent damage. They succeeded, receiving only disorder token. Now Iberian skirmishers tried their luck with the same Gallic unit. However, they scored no hits. Another Iberian unit opened up with their javelins, but they also failed to make any impression on the opposing Gauls. Final activations of the Roman turn were legionaries who again march forward. Gallic commander started with activations on the left flank. There was no way for the second unit of gunning horse to join the fray. Therefore, ongoing melee was to be decided between already engaged units. Gauls fight with 5 dice and get 1 hit. Romans roll 4 dice, but again fail to score any hits. Equites now must pass permanent losses test on 3 and less, which they did, but because of the disorder token they do suffer 1 wound. Gallic skirmishers activated next, moving and attacking Iberian light infantry with their javelins, but they fail to score any hits. Large Gallic warband moved also, again trying to cover the distance between them and their enemies. In the middle, Gallic infantry charges Numidian horse. Horsemen of course have no trouble evading the charge, but this move by Gallic commander threatens close by Iberians as well. Gauls will not catch Numidians, but on their way forward they will end up hitting mentioned skirmishers. Iberians choose to evade as well, hiding behind legionaries. Gauls finish their charge, almost hitting the Romans. Almost. Now the large Gallic warband is free to charge into exposed legionaries. But to do so, Gauls need to extend their normal charge range. They need to roll 3+ in order to be successful, and they fail miserably. They still have to move, and because of the failed extension roll, they will receive disorder token. On the left flank, another large Gallic unit charges into the Thracians with no charge extensions needed. This is the toughest and fightiest unit in the whole Gallic army, Solduri Elite, which are being led by the force overall commander. They roll 12 dice, scoring 4 hits. In sharp contrast, Thracians roll only 4 dice and score no hits. They have to pass permanent losses test, and the only result that will save them from sure annihilation is a die roll of 1, which they miraculously get. In the end, Thracians receive disorder token as only result of the furious Gallic charge, not the outcome the Gauls were hoping for. Initiative roll goes in favor of Roman Republic again, giving them priority in the 4th turn. Iberians with javelins are first to activate. They move sideways and attack Gallic skirmishers. They score no hits. Now, one of the Roman units finally jumps into action in the middle of the battlefield. Legionaries charge closer and smaller Gallic unit. Just before the contact, Romans hurled their deadly pila at the enemy, but this made no impressions on the Gauls this time. Now swords are drawn and deadly combat ensues. Romans attack with 8 dice, scoring 2 hits. Gauls are able to answer with only 3 dice, scoring no hits. They spectacularly fail permanent losses test next and suffer 2 wounds, severely limiting their offensive capabilities in the future. Gauls fall back while legionaries stand their ground, calculating coldly. Gauls rejoice for a moment, but their joy evaporates quickly, seeing Numidian light cavalry closing on them. Numidians attacked with their javelins first, to no effect, and then charge already severely weakened Gallic unit. Horsemen 4 attacks transfer into 1 hit. Gauls with their 1 die do no damage and their permanent losses test was a failure. They fall back again, being only 1 wound now from rout. Numidians decide to pursue, but in order to catch the Gauls, they need to roll 4+. They managed that easily and slammed into demoralized Gauls again. Sensing blood, African horsemen attack furiously and score 2 hits. Gauls failed to hit, then failed permanent losses test, which causes their unit to be destroyed. Numidians now are allowed chase movement, which they do, finding themselves deep behind enemy battle line. Bad development for the Gallic commander. Next activation sees Romans move sideways, emerging from behind struggling Thracians. They do receive disorder token for such a move. Now, Iberians showered close by Gallic skirmishers with javelins, hoping to chase them off the battlefield entirely so they can use the same activation and charge the approaching big unit of Gauls. Because of the planned movement, Spaniard rolls only 2 dice. Range attack is ineffective, yet the Iberians carry out their charge anyway. Gallic skirmishers decides to hold their ground. Spaniards easily devastated Gauls and were about to pursue into the big unit in front of them. In order to do so, they had to roll 4+. This failed and left them dangerously exposed. Next, Roman legionaries moved closer to their endangered allies. Battle was also raging on the far right flank. Gallic horsemen, still fresh, were attacking with 5 dice, yet they failed to score any hits. Romans, on the other hand, scored 1 hit while rolling only 3 dice. In order to avoid permanent losses, Gauls need to roll 4-, and they succeeded in doing so. They still receive disorder token though. The last activation for Roman commander was fight between elite Gallic unit and severely outmatched Thracians. Gauls attack with 8 dice and score 2 hits. Thracians with only 3 dice score no hits. Now Thracians will suffer 2 wounds unless they pass permanent losses test on a die roll of 1. This is because disorder and 2 suffered hits are being subtracted from the VPU of 4. The test is a failure and leaves Thracians severely damaged. However, they roll high for retreat, while Gauls, who are obliged to pursue, score 1 on a die roll, which denies them any pursue movement. Thracians are safe for the moment. Gallic commander starts his part of the turn, continuing clash on the left flank. Big elite Gallic unit, like all of Gallic infantry except skirmishers, is Impetus, which in this case forces it to charge battered Thracians. Gauls slam into their enemies with great force, and they score 3 hits. Thracians, because of disorder and 2 permanent damages, roll only 1 die and fail to make any impressions on frenzied Celts. Their fate is finally decided with the failed permanent losses test, which sees them utterly destroyed. Gauls are forced next to make a chase move. Next activation sees another big Gallic unit charging its enemy. Just before the contact is made, Roman legionaries hurl their pila, scoring astonishing 2 hits. Gauls failed the test and suffer 2 permanent damages. Wounded Celts still attack furiously, scoring 2 hits. Romans in their tight formation score 1. Gallic saving attempt fails and they receive yet another wound. Romans also failed their tests and suffers 2 permanent damages. Romans are forced to retreat, and while doing so they push back their own skirmishers. Meanwhile, frenzied Gauls, drunk with their victory, roll high for pursue move and are able to catch their foes. Romans hurl their pila, scoring 1 hit, which Gauls are able to save, but because of disorder, Horde is being broken and 1 unit disintegrates. Celts still attack furiously, scoring 2 hits. Romans pay them back with 1 hit of their own. Neither Gauls nor Romans are able to pass the permanent damage test, and as a result, they receive 1 and 2 wounds respectively. Romans are forced to pull back again, but their move is being shortened by contact with another cohort. Gauls roll to pursue, but it seems their enthusiasm lessened considerably and they stay where they were. Nearby, wild Celts are mounting yet another wild charge against their foes. Naked fanatics score 3 hits, while Iberians fail to score any. Spaniards in the end receive 3 wounds and fall back behind their allies. Gauls are ready now to slam into the Romans, but fail miserably their roll for pursue movement. Battle now moves to the right flank, where considerable Gallic force is being held by a single Roman unit of Equites. Gauls won the fight, but Roman cavalrymen refuse to back down, keeping the status quo on this flank. Turn 6 initiative has been won by Gauls, despite reroll from the Roman player. Big Gallic horde led by naked fanatics charges hated Romans. Roman pilla whizzes through the air, but to no effect. Gauls attack furiously, scoring 2 hits. Romans answer with cool efficiency, scoring also 2 hits. In order to avoid damage, Romans save on 4-, which they do. Gauls save on 3-, and they fail, thus suffering 2 permanent damage, losing the fight and being forced to retreat. Romans try to pursue, but they roll too low on d6. Now back to the right flank and cavalry contest there. Gallic horsemen still fresh attack with 4 dice and score 2 hits. Romans answer with only 2 dice but still manage to score 1 hit. Gauls need to pass the test now on 3- and they fail, receiving 1 wound. For battered Romans, 1 is the only score that will save them from suffering 2 permanent wounds. Equites miraculously pass the test, thus winning the fight and forcing the Gauls to back away. Now archers were trying to find an angle to fire on triumphant Romans, but they couldn't find a spot in which they could legally release their arrows. The last thing that Gallic commander did was to remove the soldier token from Horde on the left flank in order to let it maneuver in the next turn, and initiative passed to Romans. First activation is Numidian horse maneuvering deep behind battle lines. Then Roman cohort readdresses its ranks by removing the soldier token. Another Roman unit, one containing general, moves back in anticipation of Gallic movements on its right flank. Finally, Romans, who fought so efficiently before, charge the barbarian horde that they failed to pursue last time. Legionaries hurl their pila, but because they are charging and are disordered, only one die is being rolled to no effect. Despite Romans charging and being on the offensive here, Gallic horde is still a dangerous foe, attacking with 6 dice. Unfortunately for them, they whiff the roll completely, scoring no hits. Legionaries with 7 dice do slightly better, scoring 1 hit. Gauls spectacularly fail the permanent losses test, receive a wound and must retreat. Yet again, Romans fail pursue movement and Gallic horde is still a threat. As a next activation, Spaniard light infantry removes its disorder. In the last Roman activation, yet another unit, Roman Equites, remove its disorder token. Turn 7 sees initiative still held by Gauls. Gauls start with repositioning their archers. Then, Gallic horde with naked fanatics charges Romans yet again. Pilla cause no effect and Celts attack with 11 dice, scoring 3 hits. Legionaries answer with 5 dice. But it seems that Gallic relentlessness starting to get its toll on the Romans, since they score no hits. They have to pass the test now on 2-, and they do, showing stubbornness of their own. Next activation sees ongoing fight between Gauls and the most battered of Roman units. Both contestants are badly scarred, thus rolling only few dice to no effect, keeping the stalemate. Now, Gallic horde on the left flank rid itself of the disorder token in the previous turn. Therefore, it can make a turn which will cause a disorder but will not prevent Gauls from charging. The target is legionary cohort containing a Roman commander. Interestingly, this unit moved backwards previously, which is very fortunate for the Romans since charge they are about to receive will not count as a flank attack. As usual, just before contact, Romans hurl their heavy javelins, but to no effect. Gauls attack furiously, but the effect is rather moderate with 2 hits scored. Romans fare much worse, scoring no hits. 3- will save Romans from receiving 2 wounds. Yet again, to dismay of Gallic commander, Romans prevail and are still very much in this fight. This was the last activation from Gauls. Turn now passes to Romans. The left flank sees one of the Roman cohorts perform about-face. Stalemate in the center is still ongoing, because neither of fighting their units is able to break the impasse. At the rear of Gallic lines, Numidians wheeled their steeds in preparation for a risky charge. Light cavalry charge distance is the longest in the game. Still, in order to reach the Gallic horde they are aiming for, Roman commander need to roll 4+. Fortune favors the bold. You can almost hear it as Numidians spur their horses and slam into the flank of Gallic horde. Numidian light cav is not a hard-hitting force on its own, but here it will get 2 extra dice for flank attack and 3 from supporting Roman cohort. Gallic Horde loses its big unit bonus and breaks apart because of the flank attack. What is even worse, in case of a lost fight, all unit will disintegrate and disappear from the table. Numidians score 3 hits while Romans score 2. Only die roll of 1 now will save the Horde. What was possible for the Roman commander quite a few times fails for his Celtic opponent. Gallic Horde on the right flank is no more. Now, remaining Gallic Horde really need to win this fight in order to have any hopes of prevailing in this battle. Gauls roll 8 dice and score no hits whatsoever. Romans score 2 hits, which Celts are able to save, creating stalemate, outcome not favorable for the barbarians. In his next and last activation, Roman commander removes Disorder token from his Brave Equites. Initiative roll for the next turn seems crucial, especially for Gauls, yet it is Roman commander who is having upper hand. Gallic player re-rolls his score, but to no effect. Legionaries who about face in their last activation slam into the flank of Gallic Horde. Just before contact is made, Romans throw their pillar, but no hits are being scored. Gallic Horde is broken now into 2 units. Romans fight with one and the other is being counted as a support. Legionaries themselves also receive support from second cohort, fighting Gauls to the front. All in all, Romans score 2 hits. Not great. Gauls are able to score 1 hit, and Romans fail to save it, thus receiving 1 wound and Disorder token. The most important thing is the Gallic test. If it fails, the Horde will be destroyed and whole Gallic army will be under the threshold of being broken, thus losing the game. Still, unit that is being tested is the elite one with the army commander. It received 2 wounds and the Disorder token for -3 from their VBU of 6. The general adds +1, therefore they will pass the test on 4-. That test is a failure, and as a result of a flank charge the Horde is destroyed, causing a defeat for the Gauls and victory for the Republic.
So there goes our first battle report. I mean, well, it's not really a first battle report in English, there are some on the channel already, but well, it's a first one after the change. If you liked it and you would like to see more historical content, especially basic Impetus, well, please comment, subscribe and like the video, so simply to let me know that this is something that, well, you guys would like to see more often. Now about battle itself, I was quite surprised with it actually. I was playing Gauls and 2 battles that we played prior to this one, I won. I mean, Gauls won. So I was pretty much sure I'm going to win this one, yet, well, I didn't. As you could observe, Romans did win, and actually it was a crushing defeat. So yeah, unexpected, and actually welcomed as a change. Okay, now when it comes to things that we did wrong, honestly, these are mainly concerning shooting, at least, mistakes that I know of. First of all, we forgot about the fact that when you are being shot at by something that is not an artillery, you got +1 to your cohesion test, to your permanent damage test. Also, while shooting at skirmishes, you should actually have 1 die less. And I believe that this is like a 50th minute of this report when the Iberians light infantry is shooting at skirmishes, and they are rolling only 2 dice because we subtracted 2 because they actually move. This is also not correct. I mean, they do not have a penalty for moving and shooting, and yeah, well, they still should have like a penalty for shooting at skirmishes. Yeah, so like I said, mainly problems with shooting. Also, I do wonder. This is actually a question. If you guys know, please let me know. I mean, because in the 90th minute, there is a fight between the Romans and Gauls, and the Romans are throwing their pilla before the combat, and they're actually scoring like 2 hits, 2 wounds actually. I mean, 2 permanent damage are being scored, but they end up losing the fight. So I understand. I mean, yeah, that the rules seem to imply that you do not count this pilla damage into the fight itself, right? Because, like I said, the Romans end up losing the fight. But if we would count the wounds they actually caused with the pilla, I mean, as well, they would have won, but they didn't. So I understand this is how you do it, right? I mean, this shooting with pilla doesn't really count into combat resolution, right? And the last thing, the question, it's about the last fight, the one between the Horde and the Romans, the one that actually ended the battle. I mean, the Gauls lost. I think I explained it, what we were doing and how we were doing pretty well, but there was there was a debate about this. How are we actually to proceed with this big unit being attacked in the flank? So my question is, did we do it correctly? I think we did, but if you guys know better, if you guys played basic Impetus before, please let me know. And of course, if you see any mistakes that we made when it comes to adhering to rules, please let me know in the comments. I'll be more than happy to take this into account. I mean, next time that we will be playing. And that's pretty much it. If you guys are still here, thank you very much for watching and listening to me. And well, yeah, that's pretty much it. So well, till next time. Cheers.